Hello and welcome to the Dance Years with me, Dave Pearce. This week we're going back to '93. That was the year that people started leaving those muddy fields to head for the clubs. As always, there were some slamming tunes, and I've picked out 10 of the best. Kicking off with this one. My number 10 track comes from a Dutch arm wrestling champ who only started making records after losing his job as a radio presenter. Robin Albers, otherwise known as JD, recorded a huge underground hit in '93 with this tune, Plastic Dreams.
If I have to do my top 10 Plastic all-time tracks, JD, Plastic Dreams is always in there. There's something ethereal about it that, I don't know, it's a very emotional record. It's one of those records, probably something to do with ecstasy, but the hairs on the back of my neck always go up when I hear it. We used to call them E-records, records that when you hear them in like a supermarket or you hear them in a clothes shop, and all of a sudden you're right back where you were on the Saturday night at the dance floor again.
Yeah, right.
I think one of the tunes that definitely I associate with sort of a lot of the parties in the West Country was Plastic Dreams. It's just one of those tunes that sounds great with the sun kind of coming up over a hedge.
JD Plastic Dreams was a unique specimen to me, rather an impatient DJ, because back in those days I really had no sort of sympathy for producers who made records of over 5 minutes long, and if they did make records of over 5 minutes long, I'd just mix them out and kind of ignore the fact that there was a remaining 7 minutes. Plastic Dreams, on the other hand, is sort of 12 or 13 minutes long, and it is an epic in the true sense of the word. It evolves subtly yet sort of masterfully from beginning to end, and you simply can't take it off. It's just the ultimate record if you want to tingle to a top tune.
Dun, ba-dun, dun, ba-dun, dun, ba-dun, dun, doodle-doo.
And it goes on.
The vibe, the atmosphere. I think the atmosphere and that dum, ba-dum, 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 was just so different. They were so standout-ish. Fab record.
The sound of the year was techno, pioneered in Detroit in the mid-'80s. Techno was futuristic, electronic, and very popular in '93.
I think if there's anything in dance music that's close to religion, then it's probably techno and the way people talk about it.
It's just a form of house music.
Yeah, more sort of electronic version of house. It's more rigid and solid, whereas house tends to have a bit more of a groove.
It's very purist, and people who like it are very purist. There's these kind of almost like the 12 apostles of techno. There's like Eric May, Kevin Saunderson, Juan Atkins. There's all these guys. They all live in Detroit. It ties in with a kind of love of science fiction, of futurism in black music that you can take right back to things like Parliament and George Clinton and stuff like that. They're all titles are always called things like Cyborg 7, you know, Alpha Omega and this kind of stuff. Very sci-fi orientated.
There's different forms of techno as well, isn't there? They've got Gabba. Now Gabba's the form that really gets me because they really get worked on. They can't go any faster. You've got to like be on unimaginable amount of drugs to keep up with the pace of that music. So I just sweat thinking about it.
Nosebleed stuff.
it has this kind of hardcore art mentality. There's a techno club in London called Lost, which has been going for years, and a friend of mine made the mistake of going there on New Year's Eve once, and midnight came and passed and no one reacted, you know, like heads down to the grindy metallic grooves, you know. That's very much the kind of techno mentality, so it can be a bit po-faced, but it has produced some amazing records.
One of the best techno tracks of the year came out of the vibrant Glasgow dance scene, and the recent remixes of Slam's Positive Education have been caned all over the country. But for me, the original is really still the one.
Oh my God, Positive Education by Slam. Now this is a record that's just been, it was re-released about 4 months ago. It's taken how many years to re-release? 6, 7 years? Why? Because people are slowly coming around to the fact that in its original form, it was fucking great.
Slam's Positive Education was maybe an education that British acts could make convincing US-sounding techno music. But for many years, particularly in the latter part of the 80s, British dance music was perceived as a very poor relation to its American and arguably Italian counterparts. But as the 90s evolved, more and more Britain became the epicenter of global dance culture, and the records improved exponentially.
It has to be one of the most pioneering British techno records of all time, and that is saying something. Those guys in Glasgow pulled out a trump card producing that record, and that will be a seminal record as well. 10 years' time, you'll still be able to play that record. 10 years ago they made it, we're still playing it now, it's been released, and in 10 years' time you'll play it again.
Positive Education always reminds me of the Tango ad where it originally cropped up in, and it was this nagging tune, sort of dun 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 dun, and it just made me laugh because I remember a lot of people who I was working with were like, you know, what is that effing tune with that, you know, and it was probably one of those records where, again, you'd have real problems going to record shops going, yeah, excuse me, mate, have you got that one that goes, you know, mad tune.
Measure of the influence of Slam's Positive Education is its longevity. I mean, after all, the record's been released and remixed about 4 or 5 times, and it never sounds like one of those flogging a dead horse remix and reissue packages. It's got such a solid bass line, it's so memorable, and it's one of those records that not everybody knows the name of, but just about everybody would identify.
Inevitably, the techno scene had its own high-tech fashions. One of the most popular labels of the time was Daniel Paul.
The look in the 80s, it was a very severe time with people sort of Dallas and people power dressing, and the sort of general idea is that companies like C&A or Top Man would dress your average plumber or mechanic to look like he'd just come out of a Wall Street meeting, and it was all totally unreal and, you know, and kind of bizarre, really. There was a whole kind of movement there against Catwalk and Vogue and all these sort of magazines, and the big labels that were huge at the time were things like Chevignon and Chippy, and we, you know, first thing we wanted to do is really take the piss out of that in the first place. We did like sunglasses with "fuck off and die" written on the side, and porno things on the front. And if we're doing outerwear, then you'd want lots of pockets in it. You'd want things that, that everything was secure, so lots of zips on the inside, lots of Velcro, so if you're moving around, dancing, everything wouldn't fall out. And then you'd want things that are breathable, so if you're sweating a lot, you didn't come out and then suddenly you were just caught up in like this plastic bag, On top of the function, we were decorating it with things that maybe would interact, like reflective patches that would interact with the light, lots of unusual graphics or holograms, the colours, fluorescent colours, mixing different inks up in the t-shirts. And fashion designers in a club, they provide a big part of the entertainment, because what you're getting, as you're looking out, you're getting all this visual information come in. One of the main reasons you're there is to look at other people, and what they're wearing then becomes a very massive part of the vibe that you're getting. You start off as anti-fashion, in the end you just become fashion, and then you're just doing everything that you didn't want to do in the first place.
Our next track was produced by the former members of an extremely dodgy synth group called Freur. Now, they brought in a DJ, Darren Emerson, and then changed their name to Underworld, and they hit it big in the clubs with my number 8. This is Rez.
We used to do a lot of deep stuff, a lot of chilled out stuff, like Mother Earth and things like that. And so Rez was one of the ones that started sort of going a bit more tougher. And I always remembered sort of getting in the car with Fabio Perez, who was sort of like my partner in crime, DJ, and playing that in the car. And it just sounded really fresh, with that sound, just driving. And it was just like a big build-up, hands in the air record. And sort of, it made its mark, I think. I played it out for the first time, and it just went absolutely wild. I remember playing it in Dublin, and the place just went, and being a DJ, having a DJ in a band was so good, because it was like, just testing all your records out. And you knew straight away that was going to be a big record.
In '93, I was still producing and directing dance shows for MTV, and back then we did the first television interview with Orbital, and they were sort of hanging out of trees around Camden Lock. And we always let people choose one favourite video, and they chose Rez from Underworld, and Underworld no one had heard of, or Rez, but they said, look, our mates made this video. And the video was just this sort of 7 minutes of black and white interference and bubbles, and the program controller, I remember him, Jean-Pierre Millet, a French guy, was seething red, like, you cannot put this out at 4 in the afternoon. And I just was like, well, what can I do?
It was really weird seeing it on MTV, especially with all like the R&B things, and all of a sudden you see this blob sort of like, just, I don't know, it was a weird video, but it worked.
I was at Glastonbury last year. We walked into a tent at about 4 o'clock in the morning that was absolutely heaving, and as we walked in there, the DJ dropped in Rez, and the place went mad. So proof, if proof be need be, that records like Rez, records of that quality, stand the test of time. It still sounds amazing.
Coming up after the break, I'll be back with some more of my favourite tunes from '93. Welcome back to the Dance Years. In a few minutes, we're going to be looking at the rise of clubs and the fall of raves. But first... Now, if you found love on a dance floor in '93, the chances are your eyes met to my number 7 tune. Sounds of Eden by Shades of Rhythm may have been a bit cheesy, but when you're loved up, who cares?
Made every girl on the dance floor feel special, and it was, you know, again, it was big rave anthem. It used to be played at the end of the night, and it was just a real feel good, you know, make you feel good about yourself record.
She's not too easy. She can't afford to be a tease. She stands out from the rest. That girl has qualities I've never seen. Every time I see her, every time I see the girl.
The guy singing had a fabulous voice, and it just sort of reminds me of car journeys, driving here and there and up and down to Brighton at that time. And it had such a great, all-encompassing, every time I see the girl.
Every time I see the girl, she leaves me breathless. No one could take the place of you.
Well, I remember being cheeky and always, because I was always wanting to be famous. So I used to find out where the VIP area was and how you can get on the big stage to dance on the big stage. And that's what I did. And I got a VIP pass from this guy who fancied me. And then I got on there, and there was Shades of Rhythm they were playing. And they asked me if I could dance for them, but I said no, and I just wanted to dance myself.
The police crackdown on illegal parties, together with the opening of loads of new city centre venues, meant only one thing. Raves were out and clubs were in.
You knew that a club would take place if it said it was going to. So as much as raves had a bit of a sort of an underground and a kind of we're being naughty feel about them, really the main reason was the music and the fact people wanted to stay out late.
Suddenly the clubs were being licensed till you had Turnmills going on all night, which was just an amazing experience for the time. And then suddenly local authorities were allowing parties to go on in studios, big studios, 500 people, 1,000 people sort of do. So it just evolved to going back indoors.
The music started to change by then, and like the whole scene just sort of moved more into the clubs. And I remember we used to go out to a club on a Monday in Warrington every Monday. We used to go down there and always took sickie on a Tuesday.
You know, it's not in a warehouse, it's not in some weird field somewhere. We're bringing it into a club atmosphere, so it's got that classy element to it too, and it's a comfortable environment, and you know, it's safe and secure, but everyone can still rave and go mental like they want to.
I didn't like raves at all. Really didn't see the point of them, and still don't. The thought of going in the middle of a field and all, getting down, appalls me. But going into a nice club, there's sweat pouring from the ceiling and everything, yeah, that for me was what was happening.
I think there's an audience for both outdoor parties and clubs, and there always has been. Some people like to wear smart shoes and shake it a bit. Other people like to get a bit more grungy and roll around in the hay.
My number 6 tune was an uplifting Dutch anthem that caused major dance floor damage throughout '93. It's still popular now. It's got to be the Golden Girls. This is Kinetic.
Come on, get you some
Golden Girls was from the golden era of a label called R&S Records that absolutely dominated the pioneering phase of mid-90s house. It was arguably the original uplifting euphoric trance record that if you played now might sound a little bit slower than the current crop, but it had all the trappings, the hair on the back of your neck standing up as you heard really sweet minor chords with just a touch of vocal snippet to make you remember it and go and ask for it down your local record store.
Kinetic by the Golden Girls has another great E tune, and that noise kicks in. Ooh.
Golden Girls Kinetic, yeah, it originally came out, I believe, under a different name, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was on a hardcore label that Doc Scott ran called Absolute 2. And it was like on the B-side or something, and it really stood out, so it wasn't a surprise when it got re-released and Orbital remixed it. I guess it's an early example of a kind of progressive style track. It was really atmospheric, it had great kind of noises and chords, and just this refrain that kept going on and on and on. So it's got that kind of melancholy stuff that people really like.
I did like that record very much. Every now and then I still played some of those remixes that appear as bootlegs or as official every now and then. I did like it and still like it, yeah.
Golden Girls Kinetic, it was just absolutely... We were absolutely gutted when they re-released it and we didn't get the chance to do a remix because we would have loved to have done so. But like we were saying, there is a track on our new album which doesn't sound anything like it, but
you go and buy it.
You know when you listen to it. Bubbling under this year were a group who'd be responsible for one of '94's biggest anthems, Baby D.
A bunch of friends who just got together and we just started to make things happen. We all mucked in and there was writers, there was cleaners, there was tea makers, and everyone just basically mucked in, packed records when they needed to. I sang when I needed to, and no one got paid, and we just all mucked in, and it just all developed from there.
1990, that's where it kicked off for us. Getting your name on a record, man. You know what I mean? Going out and actually hearing somebody who you don't know play your stuff, and somebody who you don't know rave to your stuff, seeing the reactions from people who, they're not your mates, so it's not like, you know, they're just having it because it's you. And we saw it and it's like, wow, yeah, we've got this movie. There was a lot of artists on the PA circuit at the time. There were a lot of tracks out at the time. And the PAs weren't doing it for me because you didn't have any vocalists. Basically, it tended to be somebody standing behind the keyboard with a DAT machine. And that was it. And we were like saying, you know, what can we do? We've got to do something a bit more than that. And we started doing things with live instruments, and Dee always sang live, and people kind of did respond to that.
We're pretty down-to-earth people, and always have been, and so it just felt good to have just cracked that #1 spot, because that is like a bit of a lifetime achievement, really. I mean, you know, once you've done that, no one can take that away from you. It's imprinted in your life.
Now, Juliet Roberts delivers my #5 tune, Caught in the Middle. This summer anthem truly came alive thanks to a brilliant remix by David Morales.
Caught in the Middle purely to pay enough respect to Juliet for getting us together and just worshipping her vocals. Fantastic sing-along, feel-good dance. That's what I like to do. I like to sing along while I'm dancing, and I can do that with Juliet. So Juliet.
Excellent tune.
I remember loving Caught in the Middle. First of all, the first time I heard it played out, it was like, that is a fantastic piece of music. And it was a string of hits for Juliet Roberts at the time, and that was just like, you know, the crowning glory of all of them. And then we were asked to remix it, which was like an absolute pleasure. And then that was sort of topped again by actually hearing Tony Humphries do a double copy mix of our dub and our vocal version of that on the shows he did over here. It's like one of my strongest memories of '93, that was.
Middle. This tune brings back really good memories because at the time that this was out, I mean, everyone was sort of on the loved up feeling, if you know what I mean, Say No More. It was all down the club having a really good time, and whenever this tune come on, it had this big piano breakdown and it just dropped into it. It's all like, oh, fantastic when it came on, and it's just such a lush tune, and it's a special record for me.
What a great voice. That's another song I would have loved to have done. You know, terrific track. Great vocals.
Techno fashion was not the only look of the year. Glam clubbing kicked off big time in '93, which meant more and more outrageous outfits.
There was definitely a point, I think, that started sometime in the early 90s where people started getting really dressed up to go to clubs. I think it started in clubs like Venus in Nottingham, and then along came clubs like Vague, and also places like Back to Basics, where girls who had previously worn lycra or tracksuit bottoms suddenly wanted to wear dresses and heels and be a kind of princess for a night, and then they literally started like wearing tiaras and crowns and angel's wings. And it was quite influential because everyone started getting dressed up.
There were so many layoffs, and life was generally very dreary in the early 90s for most people. People were losing their houses, you know, people couldn't get jobs, so they were getting dressed up to go to glam clubs as a reaction to all of that.
I remember there was a huge debate in the Mixed Mag Letters page by all these girls who were going clubbing about girls that would go and get dressed up and wouldn't dance and get sweaty and their makeup wouldn't run, and the ones that would, and this kind of fight between them which took place on the letters page was an ongoing battle.
A lot of young designers were unemployed coming out of college, so at my shop, Sign of the Times, which was a very underground shop at the time, we asked them to design whatever they wanted and to bring it in. So a lot of very quirky fashion came in. Everyone sort of looked very different from each other. Then sort of formulated into what people then later called the pink and fluffy era, where people really dressed up in a sort of Barbie doll type mode.
They used to wear their night little slips, little slips, night slips.
Slippers, bedroom slippers.
I couldn't believe it. I thought at the time of the life, I thought, no, I'll stay in my jeans and that, and just look at the girls in their underwear.
At number 4, the Italians are back, but this time they've hidden away their pianos and gone all trancey on us. Here's Open Your Mind.
Sura's Open Your Mind was an example of Italian house, which was very much at the forefront of the kind of the commercial end of dance cutting edge from really Black Box's Ride on Time and Daniele De Boli's other productions. But it was the first time the Italians moved in a slightly more trancey direction, which was perhaps a precursor of a lot of the great records that was following the mid-90s.
The Asura Open Your Mind track from '93, that was a period of upbeat electronic Italian music, and that particular tune reminds me of the parties that were going on in the Milk Bar. For instance, we had a club there called Pure Sexy, and that record was a very big record at the club through those months.
That's it. It's from Total Recall. Yeah, I remember the track, big Italian thing, cheesy, but most things around that time were pretty cheesy.
Still to come on the Dance Years, the rise and rise of the DJ, and my top 3 tracks of 1993. Welcome back to part 3 of the Dance Years. In a minute, I'm going to be asking, is God a DJ? But first, my number 3 track of the year. In the summer of '93, there was one tune you just couldn't get out of your head. Urban Cookie Collective's massive hit, The Key, The Secret.
I remember playing that at Chuff Chuff, and I remember being slightly worse for wear and not being able to mix properly, and putting that on, and it didn't matter that it was mixed, the mix was totally fucked up. Everyone just went mad at Chuff Chuff to that track.
I love that song, and whenever I hear it, I always think, I wish I did that track. I really do. I just think the title alone is such a great title. I love titles. For me, titles are the first thing that attract me to a song, and then thereafter, I listen to what the rest of the song sounds like. And I just love the title.
Urban Cookie Collective,
I've got the key, I've got the secret.
I used to work with a lady called Sally Gross.
It was one of them records like Turnaround that after 2 million plays really got on your nerves.
It was big.
Yeah, exactly.
Commercially speaking, I recognise it's very effective as a record and very intelligent, but I never liked it. To me, I compare it to one of those Kylie Minogue records.
The stars of dance music culture were not just the artists that made the records, but the people that played them. Indeed, the question being asked on many dance floors was, is God a DJ?
I remember going as a punter, and there'd be people on stage who I'd heard the tracks, didn't know what they looked like, and I'd think, you're God to me right now.
I think the first thing people have to realise is we're not saving lives, we're playing records. Do you know what I mean? And just drop the ego a little bit.
In those early days, although the DJs were important, they weren't kind of treated in quite the same way that they are now. It was quite nice to be able to go out and not be kind of bothered by everybody. Do you know what I mean? It was so kind of anti-celebrity, almost to the other extreme, you know.
The question, are DJs the new superstars, are DJs the new pop stars or whatever, has been asked for about 10 years now. And some of them are capable of filling out a huge club, like, for instance, Carl Cox, being adored all over the world, fantastically skillful DJs or whatever. Some of them are also capable of filling out a club, but there's more interest in them as people.
You can go out and see a DJ in just about all the key cities of the country and indeed globally. You can get near them as a kind of touchy-feely experience. They're not the aloof celebrities that TV presenters or maybe sort of rock musicians are, who like to ensconce themselves in trendy bars. DJs are out there and they're for the people.
Because we are responsible for people having a good time, obviously there is the risk that people treat us as gods. I mean, I can see it myself. But I tend to stay with my foot on earth, you know, and just do what I enjoy doing.
Jeremy Healy, at a point in 1994-95, could sell a lot of copies of a magazine because he polarised opinion, and people had opinions. They either hated him or they wanted to know more about him or they thought he was great. Carl Cox wouldn't sell that many covers. No disrespect to him as a DJ, but people were only interested in his music and not so much in his personality.
There are a lot of DJs out there who have got their heads up their arses, and they do think they are the business and all that. And to be quite honest, if they carry on showing that kind of attitude to the people, then they will be where the people want to put them, and they'll be in the shit pile.
We are very, very fortunate. A lot of us have just had a result, as far as I'm concerned.
I think God is a DJ until you meet him. I realise that he's just really annoying, a bit of a cunt sometimes.
In 1993, those with more unusual musical tastes were buying Mr. Blobby records. However, for those in the know, Left Field were about to arrive on the scene. Their first single features the unmistakable vocals of Sex Pistol John Lydon. Open Up really was a revolutionary track, and it's my number 2. Treating DJs like superstars was all very well, but how did they cope with the fame?
It's very challenging. It's a 24-hour job. You have to breathe, live and eat and sleep this job. It's not, you know, there is no normality to my life.
It still amazes me now where DJing has taken me in terms of places I've been to, things I've done, how many people you've played to.
Being on the decks does feel good when you're playing in front of, you know, 700-800 people. You're mixing and you're thinking, what tune can I put on? And you put one on, the crowd respond, and it's a great feeling.
It's like an iceberg. 1/10 of it is the glory on the decks. The rest of it is pay-per-view in a hotel, missing everybody.
I'm fortunate enough to be able to connect with the crowd, and I'm just enjoying myself, to be honest with you. You know, I like what I do, and just work really hard.
You're looking at the crowd, they're one thing. They're not individuals anymore. The crowd becomes one thing, and you just think, what is the one record that will unite this crowd?
At the end of the day, it's all about reading crowds that way, but to do the technical part where people say, oh, I'm so good at mixing and this, that and the other, That ain't going to take too much to do.
It's a very isolated job. If you're not strong up here, then you can end up in a funny little world where you're like, you're not touching reality for ages. So you need to be grounded.
And you got to try and be better than the DJ that was on before you as well, do you know what I mean? There's always a lot of competition. Because there's so much new DJs coming through and loads of new music and there's loads of competition, which keeps it really healthy.
Are you playing the right records, or are you just playing easy records? Are you playing records that make people dance, or are you playing records that make people jump up and down on the spot? Are you doing the right thing, or are you just following the trend?
I tend to kind of avoid records that I know everyone else is playing. There are certain records that I might like as a record, but I think, well, do I need to play Paul van Dyk, or do I need to play this person or that person, because they've kind of already been played. So I'd rather kind of concentrate on playing people that I think maybe aren't getting played.
I started when I was 17. I'm now 30, just. And so 13 years, playing records has been my life.
The top track of the year for me was another US garage anthem that went from the dance floors of New York to the top 10 over here. And Robin S must still be raking in her royalties with this timeless classic, Show Me Love.